Ken is, wait, who's our vice chair? Oh no, that's Kainoa. Okay, so we don't have the chair, we don't have the second vice chair is Melody.
Yeah,
Okay,
Melody.
Melody, you got it. Call the meeting, call the meeting to order while Juanita tries to get in. And we'll go through the agenda as best as we can.
Okay, very good. However, I don't have the agenda printed up.
I have it up.
Can we share screen, Benton?
It's up.
Okay. Okay. Great. All right. So at this time, it's 6:17, and I will call this meeting to order. Let's go ahead and have a pule vehi. Benton, would you like to do the honor?
Sure. Let's bow our heads in prayer. E pulika ko. Kia ko manaloa ke mahau kene mako ia oi no kia huipu ana o ka Hawaiian Affairs Caucus Executive Committee. E olu olu e po mai ka i mai ia mako I ko mako hana nui e alaka i mai ia mako ma ke ala kupono ko mako ohana I ko mako hana loha nui ia o ka puliki mai kaino o ka keiki Yesu Christo. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Mahalo. Okay, at this time, we do have quorum. We have 5 people in attendance, myself, Benton Pang, Auntie Leimomi, Ken Farm, and Jean Ida. So let's move on to the president's report. I understand she's not here at the moment. Let's go. I guess we will defer that until she joins us. Secretary's minutes. Do we have any minutes to review?
No, we don't. Can we defer them to the next meeting? I need to get with the chair on the October minutes, so let's defer.
Okay.
Treasurer's report.
Okay. How are we with the treasurer's report?
Okay. Benton, can you pull up the link? Can you do that?
Hold on.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report, February 3rd is up.
So the report was circulated to everyone. Are there any questions?
No, thank you, Auntie Jean, for the donation.
Yep, thank you, Auntie Jean.
So
Thank you, Auntie Jean.
I'll move the file subject to audit.
Can you date the time of donation or the date of donation?
I have that date. It's in our files. It's in our files.
Okay.
Yeah. So Chair, you know, all you got to do is say that unless there are any questions, the report will be filed subject to audit.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you talking to me,
Oh,
Momi?
okay, Juanita's back on. We started the meeting to take care of some things until you could get back on. So Melody was conducting the meeting and we're on the treasurer's report now.
Okay, good.
And no one had any questions on the report.
What's that noise?
Timer.
Okay, did we get Jean?
Yes.
Okay, good. And Mona?
Nope.
Okay, I sent Mona the email link, so she was trying to get on around 6:07. If somebody can call her, and then we can continue.
I think we have quorum already. If we could just continue, Juanita.
Okay.
And then people
So
can up. Yeah.
You're now at the treasurer's report, or we've already gone over that, Momi?
Yeah, all we need, we just need the
Uh-huh.
chair to say that the report was circulated. There were no questions. and that it will be placed on file subject to audit.
Very good. So Chair says it's been circulated, and if there are no questions, we'll go ahead and accept the treasurer's report subject to audit. Mahalo. So now we're going to move forward on the, would we like to back up and have the president give her, or should we do that later?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so mahalo everyone for attending tonight's meeting. So I just wanted to bring us up to date on some of the things that have been going on. So again, here's a script, some of the major achievements that you need the caucus to make during calendar year 2020, in spite of the challenges of COVID-19. So we hosted 2 educational forums, one of the OHA trustee candidates on Olelo that was also live streamed and viewed by over 1,300 people, and the other on the subject of Hawaiian nationality. We did videos and flyers in support of several Native Hawaiian Democrats who were running for elected office. We participated in the Democratic Party of Hawaii mayoral candidate forums. Wrote to the governor and legislature to intervene in the closure of the YWCA Fernhurst Community Work Furlough Program. And subsequently, the closure was prevented by funding from the legislature. We wrote to the State Department of Health urging an increase in the number of contact tracers. Subsequently, additional COVID-19 contact tracers were hired. Published at least 4 bulletins to our membership concerning COVID-19 and providing masks to members in need. In partnership with the Oahu County Committee, we hosted the first ever unity video of Democrats post-election. And we conducted orientations on the HAC mission platform legislative initiatives for several legislators. We created an additional educational pamphlet on the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, updated the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus platform, testified on a number of bills at the legislature, and wrote Senate District 1 voters urging that they include among their nominees to fill Senator Kahele's seat a Native Hawaiian. And they did by including among their nominees at the time, Namaka Rollins. So subsequently urged the governor to appoint Namaka, but instead he appointed Laura Ocasio, a longtime active, dedicated Democrat. We would note that her position on Mauna Kea is consistent with that taken by the HAC. I also wanted to let you all know I did speak to Namaka to let her know that we were supporting her at the time. And she's very thoughtful and appreciative of our efforts. But she also said she had no issue with Laura being chosen. She felt that Laura would be excellent if her not pulled. So I think this was a very mutual relation between the both of them, and we are happy to see things progress based on that. So that's pretty much my president's update for 2020, and we could not have done all of that without the efforts of every single member of this executive committee, who I cannot say thank you enough for all your support, all your hard work, and the good things you did to help us get it out to our members and to our community, and where we are dealing with when we talk about Hawaiian affairs and the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So mahalo.
Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Auntie. I was thinking that it seemed more likely than not that with the SD1 appointee, that person would logically have been Chris Todd. I think, however, that the endorsements that we've made, the recommendations for a woman, the recommendations for a Native Hawaiian woman, really took a lot of, precedence in a way, especially with the emphasis on affirmative action. So I wholeheartedly believe that our efforts were very helpful in getting our SD1 appointee a woman. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. Okay.
And everything else was outstanding, by the way. Auntie, that was a very impressive list you just read.
Thank you so much, Melody. And again, it's thanks to members like yourself and all of our executive committee in their efforts. I really leaned a lot on particular people, especially Auntie Leomi Khan has always been there and has such a dedication for all of us in our community. So all of you, I cannot say aloha enough, but I think we did a good job and we're gonna get ready to go forward in 2021. Any other questions or comments about the report?
Chair, on the agenda, there are some
Okay.
additional items. You see those?
Yes, I do. So I'm moving forward to the secretary's minutes. Is that right now, Benton?
No, President's report. There's some things there that you didn't cover.
Okay. We were able to do these activities because of volunteer services.
There's resignation of chair, legislative
let's-
committee, island representative elections.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, I forgot that part. That was not on my other list. So that being said, yes, we had the presidential inauguration ceremonies, which was a wonderful event for us to put together with the support of others in our community. We were able to do a presentation in my opinion, and I've had nothing but positive comments about being able to be part of the parade, inauguration parade of the president. And that was done again with our executive committee members. Also, we want to give a big aloha to members of Ka'ala Farm who allow us to use Ka'ala as the setting for us to present this beautiful oli that was also supported by members of the Waianae Hawaiian Civic Club and Makaha Hawaiian Civic Club. So one of our members, Kapua, her daughter and her came up along with Auntie Georgie Navarro, and were just so aloha and helped us really bring the real welcome to our new president and vice president in a really pono and respectful and beautiful way of expressing how we feel about our new president and vice president. So for me, and I know a lot of the folks involved, was just a very memorable moment. And again, we had nothing but compliments from many who have told us what a wonderful 40 seconds we were able to contribute on behalf of the state of Hawaii and the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So mahalo everyone for helping in that. Also, we want to mention that our Hawaiian Affairs Caucus Legislative Committee Chair, I'm going to let her comment on what is happening right now, and that she'll still be with us, but she's stepping down. So Leomi, can you please add your thoughts to this particular signal? Leomi?
Yeah, actually, I'm hoping, I think you all know I stepped away as chair of the legislative committee, but I've still, because of my passion for this, have followed a number of bills. And until we turn this over to someone who feels comfortable doing this work, and I think Juanita's going to talk about that possibility. Oh, I see. Okay. Benton, you shared hosting with me, right? So We
Yes.
just entered, I'm not sure this phone number of 3230, but that might be Mona.
No,
No,
that's
that's
trying to get
me.
on too, maybe.
Oh, it's
It's
Pohai. Okay.
I've been on for a while.
Oh, good. Okay. So, what do I want to say? And so Juanita's looking for a replacement. And I guess we will be talking about that this evening. But I think you folks all know it, you know, part of it is health. And then part of it is, I think, that aggravates health is frustrations when things don't move as quickly, or that I have to follow up 4 or 5 times with people to make things happen. And besides that, for learning and growing for our caucus, it's sometimes good, you know, to step away, but I'm not completely stepping away. I just was stepping away from leadership positions. But we're still working on this one for the legislative committee, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, Juanita, back to you.
I had a question, Momi. Chair, I have a question about the legislative, what the positions are on the OHA reapportionment voting.
So Chair, may I answer that?
Yeah. So
Okay.
again, I just want to continue on this path if I can with regards to the comment. And thank you so much, Leimomi, always for the hard work you do. And we understand your situation. But we always know your spirit and aloha is with us. So you always come forward when we need the help. But I want to let you know that we did reach out and to Mona Bernardino and Benton and myself, and we're gonna try and collectively get together and get a handle on the direction we'd like to work on with regards to
Hello? Did we lose her?
Hello? Hello?
I keep
I think
Can
we
you
lost
hear
her.
Hello?
me?
Oh, in and out,
I'm
in and
here.
out.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna switch off. Like now on my computer, there's no internet and I'm having to use the phone. So hold on just a minute. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna go off this other phone, Benton. It has a tendency to go in and out. The other one will probably do better.
Okay.
Hold on.
So while Juanita is doing that, may we clarify that right now we are on item 3 of the agenda, which is the president's report.
Correct.
And eventually we'll get to the legislative report.
Correct.
Benton,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Better.
I'm still trying to switch over, but we'll just leave it at this for now, because if you can all hear me, I'll try to continue on.
Oh, it's still going
Could you
in and
send a
out.
link by email? Oh no, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Could you, Benton, could you please send the hack link for tonight's meeting to Kaimo Milstein? She's trying to join us.
Okay.
And I don't think we sent her an agenda before.
I didn't know she was on
It
the
was
EC.
hard because I had to punch in the meeting ID is long, and I'm on my phone and in my car. I have to keep switching screens
Okay.
because it's kind of long, the number.
Yeah.
For the phone.
Thank you. I hear you. Okay, I'm gonna carry on. So again, there are 3 who have spoken. I've spoken with Benton and Mona, and so we're willing to take on the role that Momi's been actively doing with her help. We'll move it forward and hopefully get on track sooner than later. So please be patient with us, and maybe we'll figure out some of the logistics tonight. Also, I wanted to mention that there are island representative elections and individuals that are interested. And so we're working on getting their forms and information together, but they've made, I believe, commitments verbally to want to support the hack and come on as island representatives. So if I can share with you the seats that I know that are open, and if there are others, we kind of announce this at the general membership also. So to date, I currently have 3 people who are interested for the Oahu Mail, Brad Lum, Melody, that's the last name, right? Brad Lum, because I don't have the info on him. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, that's correct. That's Kahu Bradlum.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, Kahu Brad Lum was willing to step up and apply for our Oahu Mail rep. We had been working earlier with Patrick Bronco, but he had to step down from this position because he had issues with the statement that we require with regards to the commitment to HAC as a representative. And so we appreciate his efforts, but we understand that because he is an elected official now, some of the things that we request and require may not coincide with his position. So after discussions with Brad and Melody, I'm looking forward to him coming forward possibly in the next meeting or sooner than later. In between, he could send us more information, Melody, and we can go ahead and bring him up to speed and make sure that
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Lemomi.
This is just a point of order.
Okay.
On the agenda, under item 8A, we are supposed to be doing the elections of filling the positions this evening. And so it would be appropriate at that time to receive the nominations, you know,
I understand.
ask questions, and then to do the election.
Thank you for that reminder, Momi. I'm just reading the president's report, so I had it in there. But looking down the list, I see it happen under unfinished business. So we'll go back to that once we get.
Chair, if I may, did you want, given number 8, do we want Brad to Zoom in for this meeting?
If he's available, then he can share his information. Kaimo, I contacted her because she did show interest. So we're trying to get her on the line. And then also I'm waiting for Stacy Helm Crivello. She's also put it on her calendar to attend tonight's meeting. Is Stacy on the line?
No.
Yet, Benton?
No.
Okay. So we'll send something out to try and get them online too.
Was Brad contacted?
I thought that was something you were handling at the time, and that's why we've been putting it in all of the meeting discussions, that today would be the day, as Momi mentioned, on our agenda. So,
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna carry on. Let's go on to the standing. If there's no other comments about the rest of the report, I don't think I had anything else on there besides the legislative committee chairs resignation and how we plan to work with that. And then also the island representative elections, which will continue on under unfinished business. If there's no other discussion on that, then we've already gone past the treasurer's report. So we're going to go to standing committee reports. So Momi, do you have something to share with us under legislation?
Yes, I actually sent out a measure tracking report earlier that's on link. However, it's quite long. And so I'm going to try to summarize this by reviewing the measures that I recommend we support, knowing that there are many others that we are monitoring. I'm going to start with the bills impacting on OHA that we are aware of, and the public land trust. So let me start with that. I've got this broken down by like OHA and public land trust, DHHL, housing, etc. But I'll go through it pretty quickly, I think. So for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, let me just answer Pohai's questions first. So there are at least, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 bills that deal with the election of the OHA trustees, including a bill to change the amount of money that they can get for campaigning. The Hawaiian Affairs Caucus has not taken a position on any of these bills. So for example, you know, the bills concern randomized ballots or ranked order of elections. There's reapportionment considerations. There's a bill that would change the island residents and the at-large positions. So because we've not taken a position on any of this, what we've done is sent out an alert to the membership that these bills are at the legislature, and if any of them wish to comment, they can do so as individuals. Because I think it would take a special general membership meeting for us to go over all of these bills specific to OHA and then try to make some decisions about them. But in the meantime, the only thing we are doing is monitoring their progress. And so you'll see in a report like this that's showing on your screen, I don't see it on there, but this is the kind of report that you can go in to the Hawaii Legislative website and set up your own measure tracking report. And what it will do is, for example, CSB 196, it will tell you what the status is on any given day. So on January 25th, it was referred to 2 committees, the Hawaiian Affairs Committee and the Judiciary, eventually the Judiciary Committee. For those that get on here, but for example, on February 2nd, the Committee on Hawaiian recommended that the measure concerning randomized ballots be passed with amendments. On February 4th, which was today, the Committee on Hawaiian met to review a bill, it's SB 890, that indicates that 4 seats, that beginning January 1st, 2024, 4 seats on the OHA Board of Trustees without an island residency requirement, 2 by residency, etc. So you'll see that bill.
Tomorrow, right?
Is today the 4th or the 3rd?
Today's the 3rd.
Oh no, then it is tomorrow. I'm sorry, it is tomorrow. Okay, so I don't go over all these bills with you because you can easily find them. But just know we have not, the caucus has not taken a position. So we're not giving testimony,
Yeah.
we're only monitoring so that we can,
Oh, okay, that's all I wanted to know.
yeah, so we're keeping the, yeah, and then what I do is, at the moment anyway, until we get a new chair, is I will send you folks periodically a report like this. So it's a measure tracking report, and that'll keep you
Yeah.
updated. Yeah. And then on this one, it doesn't show, but on another one that I've done, which I'll send you in the future, you will see next to the bill and before the date, you're going to see what the HAC position is. So for example, it'll say monitor, or it might say support, or it might say oppose, or it might say, you know, Leimomi is developing testimony in support, or Mona is developing the testimony in support for approval of the chair. So it's only going to be on bills that we agree, though, that we either support or we oppose. In between these meetings, we work with you, the executive committee, we send it by email to you, and we ask for you to turn it around quickly, because all of you who know how this process works, we only have 2 days to get anything turned around. The other thing is, we try to assure that whatever testimony we give is in line with our platform, either the Democratic Party of Hawaii platform or the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus platform. If it is not, then definitely, unless the executive committee approves it, we will not, you know, we will not give testimony on it. It has to be consistent with our platform. Okay, so for OHA, then, the ones that I propose that we do support, and which is on our legislative priority list, is one SB 321, which has to do with the public land trust revenues. And so I've asked Mona to write the testimony, because we're trying to share the workload here. So this one relates to increasing the payment amount for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs pro rata share. It requires agencies that collect receipts for any disposition of the public land trust that they shall each fiscal quarter transfer to OHA 20% of each receipt from the disposition, and so on and so on. So the committee on Hawaiian, it was a Senate committee, recommended on February 2nd that the measure be passed with amendments. Please know that we did not submit any testimony because we weren't organized yet, and we weren't aware that this was being heard, that we could quickly turn out some testimony on February 2nd. However, next goes to Judiciary and Ways and Means. So we will have opportunity to write testimony in support, and Mona's drafting that, or I've asked Mona to do that. If she doesn't, unless the chair takes it on, I'll probably write it. So the next one is on OHA's budget, program appropriations, the operating costs. It would appropriate money to fund the operating expenses of OHA. This was another priority that we wanted to support. And again, on February 2nd, the Senate committee passed the measure with amendments. Now, I wasn't at the hearing. I don't know what the amendments are. This one I was going to write the testimony on. Another one is SB 1317. This one requires agencies that collect receipts for any disposition of the public land trust that they shall each fiscal quarter transfer to DHHL or OHA 20% of each receipt from the disposition. Sounds very similar to the earlier one. Again, the Committee on Hawaiian is holding a public hearing on February 9th. And so I haven't had an opportunity to review this in depth, but will, so that we can write the appropriate testimony in support. There is another bill, and it has to do with authorizing BLNR to extend certain leases of public lands for commercial, industrial, resort, or government use upon approval of a proposed development agreement to make substantial improvements to the existing improvements. We are just monitoring that. I have to be honest with you. I don't know that any of us, except maybe Healani Sonora Pale or maybe Pohai, has the technical knowledge on this issue to write appropriate testimony. So it's for that reason that at the moment we're just monitoring. So unless there are any objections to writing support testimony for the three bills that I recommended, we'll hold a more with those three bills as it relates to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Everybody good? Do we have any objections, Chair? Could you please ask? Okay, Bonita, we
Muted.
can't hear you.
You're muted.
Okay, sorry, guys. Got to go back and forth. Again, any objections to the report given by Auntie Lemomi or
No, none.
what requesting? Okay, no objections, no objections heard.
Well, okay, so you know what, though, just to make it official so that Benton can record it in the minutes. So I'm going to move that the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus support SB 321, SB 389, and SB 1317. We just need a second on that.
Can you just say those ones again, just
And
for,
what are they though? Can you read the subject, the title?
Yes, SB 321. This one relates to increasing the payment amount for OHA's pro rata share of the public land trust. So I went over these three with you, and earlier you all said you agreed with my recommendation. And that's why I just want to put it in a motion though. SB 389 has to do with OHA's budget. So we're supporting their budget. And SB 1317 is another bill that requires agencies that collect receipts for any disposition of the public land trust to transfer. I'll have to check this one out. This one's on to transfer to DHHL or the Office of Hawaiian Affairs 20% of each receipt from the disposition.
can I read it, Auntie?
You can read it, SB 1317.
Requires agencies that collect receipts for any disposition of the public land trust shall each fiscal quarter transfer to the Department of Hawaiian Homeland or the Office of Hawaiian Affairs 20% of each receipt from the disposition. Returns to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs certain monies previously claimed as public trust overpayments to the office. Establishes the Public Trust Revenues Negotiating Committee.
Correct.
So it also establishes a public trust negotiating committee.
Yes,
the-
that's all in the same bill. That is
Yeah.
correct.
The-
And that bill is scheduled for a public hearing on February 9th.
It goes to Hawaiian Affairs, and then Hawaiian Affairs, it goes to a joint hearing of WAM JDC.
Correct. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
A second. Do we have a second?
I second.
And Benton just seconded.
Okay. You want to have any further discussions?
Any further discussion?
I would like to recommend that the executive committee review these bills. And if you have any concerns, send your concerns over before we write any testimony. I will be reviewing these bills really carefully also. Okay.
Okay. So any opposed to the motion at this point? Are there any opposed? None opposed, motion passes.
Okay, as I mentioned, for the OHA elections, all those bills, all we're doing is monitoring. If any executive committee member wants us to take some other action, they should write either to me or to Juanita with their appropriate recommendation for consideration. Okay, so the next one I'm going to go over is DHHL. DHHL, my God, there's so many bills here. 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 9 that I've identified anyway, at least 9. Of that 9, we are monitoring most, except that I'm going to recommend a couple that we submit testimony and support. So one bill, which is SB 877, would allow the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to retain independent legal counsel as needed. It authorizes DHHL to use the services of the Attorney General as needed and when the interests of the state and the Department of Hawaiian Homelands are aligned. This is not a new bill. This is actually carried over from the last 2 years. The Attorney General has some issues with this bill, and I don't know if they're going to take the same position or not. But we have previously taken a position, our caucus, to support allowing DHHL to retain independent legal counsel, especially if, you know, they're at odds with some state law or some action by the state. So I am recommending to you that we support that bill. Another bill, okay, so this one is a new one as far as I know. This one is HB 969. This one relates to the counties. It would require counties within 60 days to maintain infrastructure under specified conditions as part of any housing development for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And in my opinion, this is good. I think that if it were not for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands having lands to use to build housing, the homelessness issue and the ability of Native Hawaiians to afford housing would be aggravated. And right now, the counties, as far as I know, they pay to maintain infrastructure, you know, for the public. So why not for DHHL? That's my thought on that one. So I'm recommending that we give testimony. I sent a note to Ken because he's our housing rep on the.
Can I make a comment about this after we're done?
Yeah, and I've asked if he would write the testimony. So Ken, now would be appropriate to express whether you oppose or you agree with a given testimony in support.
So first off, I hate to say that I'm reluctantly not in support of this bill, and I'll tell you why. If I didn't know anything about planning or with what's called Oahu MPO or what's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, then I would just be for this. The issue that I have here is that DHHL is going to transfer these costs over to the county and say that they basically balance the budget off the department, you know, from the department to the county. The counties don't have monies for this. Now, there's one part here that I think that, and I was talking to Uncle Bill about this. This was, before we had COVID, because of the fact that roads and, you know, bridges, other things, they all get funneled into what's called the TIP. It's called the Transportation Information Program. These roads are under this, are mixed in. So for example, some DHHL roads are under DHHL, other ones are for the county. So right now, if we did this and in a larger policy area is we need to first look at why the Department of Transportation is not going after funds. Because right now, if we give it to the counties are hamstrung with what and this will fall under Department of Transportation. I'm surprised it doesn't say this under here, because they take care of all of this here in terms of water treatment, water disposal. All federal money comes through through that section. And the problem is that the counties are hamstrung by the state, because the state through DOT is not going after this money. So it is, we need to find a way to get department, because right now they're right. This isn't under their purview technically, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. However, if we just transfer it off to the counties are not going to be able to pay for this currently, unless we allow the state and tell the state to go after these federal funds. We leave $1 billion on the table every single year, most of which is from the Department of Transportation. And I hate saying this because this is not the most technical way of saying it, but there's not a lot of creative people in there that go after federal funds. So they'll find ways to try to jack up in terms of taxes, but they won't go after federal funds. Most of the federal funds they go after is what's called the Tiger Grant, which is basically a participation trophy when it comes to traffic, when it comes to public transportation. I like what this is going to what it could do, but right now the counties are going to fight back on this, and they're not going to be able to fulfill this. DHHL, by virtue of being in the state, has the ability of pushing the governor to say, Department of Transportation, go after this money. But that's never happened unless the governor, by virtue of an executive order, tells the Department of Transportation to go after money. They don't go after money.
Exactly.
And that's what it's going to require for something like this. I know what they're trying to do here. I know part of it is to transfer part of the costs, and it's going to look good on the balance sheets a little bit, and I get that. But this is going to screw over a lot of people.
So, Juanita?
I have.
Yes, Mommy.
Yeah, could you manage this, please?
Okay. So with regards to your request at this point in time and your reference to why you support it, but our housing representative who's doing the report on it, I guess what we should do is make a motion to see if we want to go forward and support this, or we're going to take a stand one way or another, or that we monitor, because I have two different perspectives here. Are there any other comments anyone wishes to make about either position where Momi has made her statement and comment versus what Ken is saying?
I do.
Go ahead, Kaimo.
Yeah, from what I've learned in the Nelson case, the ANO budget, which has been argued in court all the way to the Supreme Court and back down, the state legislature is the only one that will ever make sufficient funds, and they have determined what that sufficient fund equivalent is based on, and it is based on the definition through their Hawaiian committee back at the Constitution Convention, which is a very outdated, method of how they determine. They're out of date with it. So to get the county or the state to, both the state and the county, I don't believe will ever pick up the cost, even when the subdivision, the county should, I think the county should pay a part. I don't know, but if they can, they should, but nobody is going to pick up that cost. It has to come into the DHHL's ANO budget, which is going to be argued for sufficient funding at the legislative ledger on an annual basis, and that's going to be problematic.
Can I bring some part again here?
Yeah.
And I'm going to re-stress this again. DOT does not go after federal money. They don't. And we need to, because if it goes through another line, it goes back from the state to the county, the county's going to be hamstrung by Department of Transportation, because the way that federal funding usually works is it's the state that actually has that conduit. So I talked to from Office of Budget and Fiscal Services about 2 years ago, because I actually wanted the idea about transferring the roads to the counties, so therefore the counties can put it under what's called the TIP. But then finding out what I found out in terms of the state not going after the money, as in through the department heads, not going after federal funds, that was the part that kind of put, I kind of stopped thinking in that. I wanted to do that because it probably would have worked on the planning side, it would have worked out fairly great. However, because they don't go after the money, and in some cases they hamstrung the counties and not allow the counties to go after the money because they have to sign off on it, and they won't, just because of pettiness.
That is correct. That is correct.
So
that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we could do is we can say that, that we encourage that the Department of Transportation take the head on this one. So like, because that's where the money comes from. DHHL cannot, from my understanding, I was talking to Uncle Bill, they really don't do anything with road, because that's not really their purview in order for the creation, to the extent like what is being mentioned here. So I know where this is going, because I believed in the same thing, I really did. But then after I found out about the pettiness that goes on, which obviously we can't mention in this bill, I have seen the Department of Transportation just stand in the way and do absolutely nothing while the counties are trying to go after money. But because the feds require DOT to sign off, and they won't.
Is the infrastructure maintenance a administrative operation cost of the Department of Foreign Homelands?
It is, but it kind of it shouldn't, because they don't have the funding for it, and they can't go after the funding for it. So for example, I told Uncle Bill, hear me out. I told Uncle Bill, said, Uncle Bill, there's the money that's in the Federal Register. Why don't you guys go after it? He's like, we can't. It's through the Department of Transportation.
Well, the roads in the neighborhood are cities.
Okay, I'm sorry. Pardon me. Go ahead, Lemomi.
Yes, may I ask that when anybody offers testimony, they start off, or comments, they start off with saying whether they support what is proposed, the recommendation, or they don't, and then give their explanation. Having said that, in my opinion, where the money comes from is not an issue for the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. At least I don't think so. I think the issue here is that, and I'm not sure who exactly, I gotta go look at who sponsored this bill, but the issue here is about infrastructure and funding for the infrastructure of the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And this bill proposes that the counties do that. I'm not here to fight for the counties. I am here to fight for Native Hawaiians and for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And everything you say, Ken, might be correct. And the bill might not pass. Yeah, but I'm not going to find the reasons to argue against this bill, because the bill is about requiring the counties to support or to maintain the infrastructure. You know, we all know there were issues on the sewer system, for example, in terms of, was it the Kuleana of DHHL? Was it the Kuleana of the city? So for me, I'm supporting this on the basis, or I recommend we support this on the basis that I think that the counties should take on the Kuleana for maintaining the infrastructure. And my rationale on this is that if we didn't have this housing, the counties and the state would have to come up with some other housing for all of these other individuals or Native Hawaiians, and they would be paying for that infrastructure. So the issue is whether we support the counties paying for this, not whether they have the money to do it, because that that is their kuleana to express to the legislature that don't do this because we don't have the money to do it, or we don't think it's appropriate to do it. That's my thought on it.
Thank you, Lemomi. So that being said, are there, let's start based on what Momi was very gracious to share with us. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support of creating supportive testimony for this particular bill?
If there's nobody, if there's others, I'll wait for others.
Okay, so if anyone would like to share in support of going ahead and turning in testimony support. Anyone there?
Kaimo, can I?
Okay,
say one
so
last-
let's go on. If no one is willing to speak in support, is there anyone kanalua on the issue at this point?
I'm Kanalua because the chair of the committee is recommending support, and the person who wants to write the testimony doesn't seem supportive. So I'm Kanalua.
Okay, thank you, Benton.
I'm in support.
Any other members? Okay, so Kaimo, you're in support of offering testimony?
Yes, and it's in line, same line with Lemomi's Manao. There, and for I know beneficiaries are waiting, and projects are on hold where county infrastructure, and I've heard on specific areas where the cost, issues between the county and the state to cover these expenses need to join forces. So
Thank you,
legislation
Kaimo.
would support the existing conversations.
Thank you.
Can I just make a comment? Because I'm going to stay out of this
Hold on,
argument.
Ken. Hold on, Ken. I just want to make sure that we're out there asking our executive committee if they have any comments with regards to what they've heard both sides. So is there anyone else that wants to comment on the direction that we now have Lemomi and Kaimo moving forward with writing testimony in support of the process is what I am hearing. That this is something, however the process follows intact or runs into issues with different departments, that's one part. But what I feel that I'm hearing from Lemomi and Kaimo is that we should constantly try to support the department if that is where they're going, and that they're the ones who have really spent a lot of time and energy trying to find ways. This is not the first time it's come out for them to repeatedly come back and make mention that this is a way that the process would work for DHHL. That's where I think I'm hearing Momi and Kaimo coming from. So anyone else have any comments in support?
Chair, this is Melody. I am in support.
Okay. Thank you, Melody. Okay. Now, go ahead, Ken. That being said, is there anyone else who has heard what Ken has said and has suggested that we possibly not support writing legislation? And Ken, are you saying you want us to monitor, or that you'd rather send in testimony and
I'm just gonna step out, and if somebody wants to write, it's fine with me. Yeah, I'm taking it, looking at it from seeing where the money comes from. I know that there's something that was, secondary to part of it. But again, we always talk about in terms of funding. If the state hamstrings a county, then it's going to get even worse. So if we allow DHHL to go after the funds that DOT doesn't go after, that would be great. Because right now their hands are tied because DOT says no, it's our realm. Infrastructure is our realm, and they're not able to go after that money. for the federal, I'm sorry, the federal fundings that can go along with this. But I know, I understand what you guys are saying. I'm just gonna, I wish I didn't know what I knew about this whole process. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so is that, that's a no, or are you Kanalua?
I'm just gonna stay out of it. I'm just going to,
Okay,
whatever the wishes of the, the committee is. I
you're gonna
would
go
not be
with
the best
whatever
to write
the
it.
majority. Okay,
Yeah.
you're gonna go with the majority, but you're gonna be, that's why I think it's more a Kanalua thing, because you're not going a definite yes or a definite no. So
As I am,
just wanna understand.
Buhay.
Buhay is Kanalua. Okay. Anyone else wish to comment? Jean, are you there?
I think we lost Auntie
Hello.
Jean.
Now she's
Okay.
there. I show her on my
Oh, no, I
screen.
see her. Yeah, you're right. She's not muted.
So Chair, may I comment, please?
Go ahead, Momi.
So I understand that we have at least 3 of us who might vote to support. Likewise, we have 3 who are Kanalua. So this is what I want to recommend is the hearing is tomorrow, and we're certainly not getting any testimony in by tomorrow. So the first hearing is tomorrow. After that, it's supposed to go to Water and Land and then to Finn. So why don't we do this? Let us wait to see what happens tomorrow. Because you know what? This bill could be dead on arrival if, like Ken says, all the counties come in, and the Attorney General might weigh in also. And so the bill might die. So let's wait. And then we'll have another meeting, or we can schedule a special meeting if we need to because of how the legislature is going. And then let's revisit this. So for now, I want to recommend, because we really don't have a motion on the floor for voting. So I want to recommend we go ahead and monitor this and see what happens tomorrow. And if it passes out tomorrow, then I think we should go support it. And the support is because we're trying to help the Department of Hawaiian Homelands.
Mahalo for that suggestion, Momi. Go ahead, Benton.
I like that suggestion, and I have a comment and suggestion for the chair. Why don't you consider doing this for all of the bills? Why don't we wait until crossover to see what bills make it? Because this may be a busy legislative session regarding COVID funding, and there are probably a lot of bills that we are thinking about right now that aren't going to make it. So it's just a suggestion.
Point of order. We are
Go ahead.
We are discussing HB 969. Can we complete that discussion? And then if we want to take up Benton's recommendation, we can do that after my report.
So can I make a motion that we adopt what Auntie Lemomi was saying in terms of monitoring this bill and seeing what happens with it? And obviously the committee report will come out so we can see whatever changes are going to be made.
Okay, is
I'll
there
second.
a second? Okay, Benton seconds. Okay, any discussion? Any discussion? No discussion?
Yeah, let me have a clear understanding. So what we're going to do is we're going to monitor tomorrow. And if in fact this passes out, then we will support.
Can I make just a point of clarification?
I didn't hear that.
If it changes unamended, because I'm sure this is going to be amended, because we'll find out in the committee reports if or not. So you're saying regardless if it's amended or not, we support either way without looking at the amendments.
Right, because the intent will not change. I don't believe the intent will change. However, I'm willing to step away from that if we can agree that we're going to meet, and because this, you know, this moves on fast. So
Agree.
yeah.
So Momi, when would you like to set up meeting after this particular?
So why don't we go through, let's see if we have any issues with anything else, and then we'll know how best to do this.
That sounds very reasonable. Okay, so shall we move forward then? This is going to be at this point in time where we monitor
Okay.
this particular bill, and,
Yeah.
and no specific issue is brought to attention at this time until we go over all the bills.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Momi.
Okay, and then so for SB 1323, that one calls or requires the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to develop a strategic plan to devise and implement long-term solutions for eliminating the waiting list for a homeland lease, with an emphasis on leveraging its trust resources, statutory powers, and other means of state funding and support to focus on lot development and distribution. The plans shall be based on a comprehensive assessment of the needs of the wait lists and with beneficiary consultation. So for this one, I recommend, you know, we support it. And I sent an email to Kaimo today if she agreed, if she would write the testimony.
Yes, I can draft if somebody can help
Yeah.
finish it off.
Yeah.
In that, to add to that, I would like to suggest and open for discussion that they include in this long term a financial planning apparatus or something, because we know to attack the beneficiaries list, they need a portfolio, a portfolio that is not the state funded funds, but their own funded funds. And that kind of funding requires some serious planning with some serious innovators, financial and everything else. And they need a big bundle of money, and they need to start some kind of discussion, planning, etc. So if that could be kind of added into improving that bill to include that kind of addition. Because it's just not talk about how to eliminate or build, because they are 100 years old and it has been a failure because of the lack of funds. So if they can
So I would suggest reading the bill and then posing an amendment. Where would the amendment?
So that's what I'm going to put into it, and then
Chair, I'd like to comment on this too.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kaimo. Thank you, Kaimo. Go ahead, Pohai.
Okay, you know, the general sense of the legislators, just seeing the briefings before session started, both for OHA and DHHL, and pretty much making directives or demands that they think of revenue generating. Yeah, I think the state needs to remember all the past due rents that have not been paid to DHHL, and undervalued leases, whether it's an airport property or whatever. To just say that they should build a portfolio is not that simple. If it's not part of the original structure within the trust legally, that would take some effort, which is quite different from OHA's ability to do that. But you know, just listening to some of the legislators and the way they lecture, they forget. I think they need to be reminded that the state actually owes DHHL money besides what they ask for. And you know, that can go back and forth, and I don't see us winning that victory anytime soon, especially this year when they want to cut a lot of the budget. They pretty much, that's what it is. In fact, they're thinking of, there's bills to take money that OHA oversees to use it for other purposes, which is a dangerous path to go down. I think Kaimo is right that being responsible and having fiscal sustainability, again, it's not that simple. There's a lot of things involved as far as seeking the funds federally to help produce and develop homes for our clients. In previous discussions with Joby, you know, part of it too is the uniqueness of the trust and the commitment they have to beneficiaries. That it's their ultimate responsibility is protecting the HHL as a trust. They cannot do things that will put the trust at risk. That's all I wanted to say. That's my monao.
Yeah, there was many lessons learned in that Nelson case.
So let me move this along because we still have many more bills to take a look at. So I'm going to move that we support SB 1323 that would require a strategic plan by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands with amendment to include a financial plan or some financial planning. So do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? No further discussion. Okay, so shall we vote? Anyone opposed? Any opposed? None opposed, motion passes. So we will go ahead and move on this one, Momi, to
Okay.
please work with Kaimo.
Okay. So just so you know, the OHA and the DHHL ones were the longest. It won't be like this for all the rest. But there is one more for DHHL, and that is the legislature has scheduled a public hearing on February 11th on SB 1321. This one grants a 40-year gaming license for a single integrated resort property on Hawaiian homelands designated for commercial use on the island of Oahu, excluding lands west of Ko'olina, establishes the Hawaii Gaming Commission, imposes wagering tax on gross gaming revenue, creates state gaming fund, appropriates funds. So at our general membership meeting, we had Mr. Ayla and his staff do a presentation, which was I thought very good. And then in our general membership meeting is when we really got to hear what our members thought. And so my sense of that, and some of you who are in it can chip in, was that there were many in support. And I think the person that was most persuasive was Makana Paris. And I will say that as an elder, and I am a gambler, I really wasn't too keen on this idea, partly because our island, in my opinion, is already overly populated. And I just don't think that we need to have it further overpopulated and then have, you know, the disadvantages of casinos in terms of what it does to community. But I have to tell you that I was quite persuaded by the fact that in listening to our members who voiced support, I noticed that they were of the younger generation. When I say younger, I'm talking about younger than me, like in their maybe 30s and 40s. And I really felt like I would love to do a survey to see, you know, what elders think about this versus the younger generation. And so for me, I'm willing to change how I feel because I'm not the one that's going to have to live with the fallout. they are, people like Ken Farm are going to be here that have to live with the fallout. But be that as it may, I think what we decided, and Benton, you can correct me because I think you took the minutes. I think we decided that we were going to have another presentation, and we were going to bring in, we were going to feature 2 speakers or so, one to speak in favor and one to speak against. And then we may or may not, as a whole, take a position, or we might not. It might be so divisive that we say, okay, everybody, you've heard the pros, you've heard the cons, now you go give whatever testimony you want to give. So I guess I am asking if you guys all agree that it's not a matter of what we agree, the general membership agreed that that's what we would do as the next step. So we haven't taken a position, right? We were
Can
gonna,
I'd like to ask some questions about the possibility of having pro and con presented. Who will be selecting the speakers?
so we would, the executive committee,
Who's
and I was
we?
gonna ask,
Oh,
you know, I just don't know. I mean, I know who to ask because for the pro, because McConaughey did an excellent job. He doesn't look at this as a gaming issue. He
I have a
looks at,
recommendation for con.
yeah. So, but I didn't know for con.
I recommend Representative Stacy Eli.
okay.
Representative Pahai.
So we're limiting it to the scope of. Okay, the reason I asked this question is, and I shared this with some of you that I attended a gaming state legislators conference years back. One of the speakers they had was a Asian doctor from UCLA that specializes in gambling addiction. And the reason they brought him in is because at the time, Macau had just surpassed Las Vegas. And his presentation was about Asians being the highest, most vulnerable and predisposition to being gambling addicted. And we have a high concentration of Asians in Hawaii. But if there's a way I can get a different speaker, because this is all virtual, right?
Yeah, it was virtual. And interestingly, we had 30 some people on the line, and not all Hawaiian Affairs Caucus members, because it was open. It was open to whomever in the party.
And were they mostly pro? Were they mostly pro?
I think
Was the audience mostly pro?
when we had our general membership meeting followed, my sense of what I heard was mostly pro. But
yeah, because that's their incentive to participate.
And Ken and Benton and maybe
And Pohai, I recommend you watch it. It's both on our Facebook page and our website, so you can see.
Yeah, I did.
Presented. And one of the people that presented was an Ada Hawaiian health practitioner who said that there is no data that specifically links gambling to those secondary social ills that everybody talks about.
Yeah, I know. I saw the presentation that Deputy did, and I thought it was very one-sided, to be honest with you.
So this person,
that's why I'm bringing up the question.
But Pohai, this person was not a member or a staff member of DHH.
No, I know. I know. And
it wasn't set up to be pro and con. Sorry.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that position only because I've seen other data. Not all forms of gambling are highly addictive, lottery being one, because the odds are too high. But the other thing I wanted to ask is, so has anybody really thought about the newest group that has come forward in opposition, the sex trafficking?
That's why I want Stacy Eli to be the con representing the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women.
Okay, that's one angle.
I just here's the angle that I just want to, because I'm reading the bill again, and it's under the conduct of casino, section 18, conduct of casino gaming. And I just want to know how they're going to do this without federal recognition in terms of having this preferential treatment of Native Hawaiians in employment.
Yeah.
I don't see how the hell that they're not going to get slammed with a lawsuit. Yeah, I if you can make this work, great. But the way you're selling this to people, there's no way you're going to be, if we were federally recognized, different story, right? We are going to get nailed with a lawsuit.
Yeah, cannot. That's not possible. And people are presenting the option of restricting, prohibiting Native Hawaiians from gambling. You cannot do that either. You cannot create a second class. We're still under the Constitution.
Right.
You cannot prevent people from freely recreating.
Right. Now you can
they looked at all that in the
you can create the environment that's different, that's not going to be as welcoming. Like I use DFS Galleria as a good example. I have no problem with it. I walk in there all the time. But I see a lot of people who are local, they walk in there and they're just like, oh, this isn't Hawaii anymore. I feel out of place, and they just leave. Because when we really get the reality, we want people from outside to spend their money here for the most part, or most of those dollars should come, the target should be for people outside of Hawaii kind of spending the money while we're able to retain what we have here. That's just my personal feeling.
We're not.
Go ahead, Omi. Go ahead.
We're not debating the bill, guys. We're trying to decide how we implement the will of our membership, which was to feature at least 2 speakers, 1 for and 1 opposing. And so for the 4, I think we were looking at maybe Makana Paris, who did such a great job. And thank you, Benton. So you've offered as an opposed Stacy Eli. So the question is, do we have any other?
Is there
Now,
anybody?
Stacey's position would be pretty narrow for women, from a women's statistical point of view.
I don't
true or not true?
Why do you have anyone else you'd like to recommend? Because it's not easy. I don't know who to recommend. So that's why I'm looking for the feedback from our executive committee. If you know of anyone or group who opposes. Now, I don't know if Robin Danner and the Shaw opposes. I mean, obviously, if they did, we could have one of them.
They do. They do, Auntie. I can ask them if they want to come on and talk.
No, I don't want you I don't want you to ask. We can ask. I just want the names.
Robin Danner.
Yeah, Robin
Oh,
Danner.
I'm sorry. Who's we? Who's we? I'm asking that question again.
Us.
No, who is we asking?
So the
Foreign
legislative
Affairs caucus, our caucus, and Juanita has asked me to organize this. So I'm the organizer to put it together. So all I need.
Okay, so Ken cannot ask?
Huh?
How come
No,
Ken
I mean,
cannot
if
I would ask that he not. I can
That's
do
fine.
that. I can do
that's
that.
fine. Yeah, if you're willing to ask her, I mean, that's fine.
Oh,
Here too, this is Melody.
What was that, Melody?
I can ask Robin Danner. I believe that's where we're at, right? Am I?
Okay, I think everyone here has at some point in time, I shouldn't say everyone, but definitely Leimomi and myself have had conversations on multiple occasions with Robin. And so I think there's enough of a relationship that she recognizes Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. And Leimomi has done, again, an excellent job of always getting out there every year to try and be balanced and bring that effort to our caucus so that we can understand what is our best solution, whether we support, oppose, or we monitor. So because Momi was elected, she was elected as the chair. I'd like us to follow that order, but we're all together, always open to opinion and view. And so we won't make any decisions until we never make a decision just independently. We try to do it so that we come back to the group and on multiple meetings, like Momi says, she constantly goes out there and gives courtesy to our entire caucus So I don't think that's an issue. So as the chair of the Hawaiian Affairs, we've already appointed Momi.
Lei Momi. Oh, it's Kaimo. Is there somebody that's going to open at this presentation to from the department to clarify their intent, purpose, outcomes that they wish to achieve?
No, because we had them do
Oh, okay.
our presentation.
Okay.
It's already posted on our website.
Okay.
So what I've heard is invite Robin, invite Stacy. If we invite both of them, besides Makana, who would we invite on the pro side? Does anybody know?
Was the DHHL presentation, the general membership, predominantly pro? So if it was, couldn't you just make this the opposite?
I would like to bring balance, Pohai, if we have two.
But did you have it at the general membership meeting? Wasn't it pretty much pro?
First meeting was not for the purpose of pro or con. The first meeting was simply to be educated on the proposal. We did not in the presentation, call for pros and opposition.
And I would also say it would be unfair to characterize that meeting as pro or con, because I would say most of those who were vocal were probably in the for, but there are a lot of people who didn't voice, and they could have been the opposite, but there was no poll done. So Pohai, I would not characterize as predominantly pro casino. The question was not even answered.
Makana, you're gonna have Makana, I'm just asking these questions because I don't know, but you're gonna have Makana speak because why?
So in the general,
Why Makana, I guess.
when we followed after the presentation, when we had just a reactionary, anybody wanted to comment, they shared their views. Makana shared his views and he did an excellent job. And so a lot of people thought, yeah, if we do this, we should invite him. So I think we should invite him.
I remember Gloria specifically saying that, Makana, that was awesome. We need to have you, say that. So that was the type of support that we had from some of the members.
He's probably very thorough in his position because of his work in the union. So it doesn't surprise me that he's pro, but maybe you need to have someone that has more of a social, if you're gonna do another pro person, maybe somebody that has more of a socially directed reason for being in support of it. Because Makana is part of the trades unions, and I think it's a no-brainer that he supports it.
So
that is one of the promises.
So Pohai,
Okay,
do you have anyone you'd like to recommend?
How about if we do this,
states are against it. People from states are against it.
We're already almost
I know they're against gambling.
Okay, go ahead, Leimomi.
We're already almost 2 hours into this meeting. So how about if we do this? I have 2 names of those that oppose. I have 1 for. I hear you, Pohai. So I will look. I'll take a look at that, your suggestion. But in the meantime, because I'm not working on this tomorrow, if you have any other recommendations for speakers,
what about Senator Wakai?
Email Juanita and email me.
You want to consider Senator Glenn Wakai as a pro?
Has he voiced that, Kaimo?
I don't think he got involved.
No, but he may have some, I don't know, because I had a discussion at our Salt Lake and town hall, and we both kind of looked at gambling as a, not specifics, but could possibly go into some discussion format to kind of think outside the box of the pros possibility. Hawaiian Homelands is definitely thinking outside of the box as a state in its totality in this step
I would
toward
also
state.
like to add that if at all possible, that we keep the speakers Native Hawaiian.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was just going to say maybe we shouldn't, because that's one of the things that is coming out of this is that the not including, and I know they don't have to legally, but really it's going to impact Hawaii significantly. And I think that the broader community does have the right to be included
Okay,
in the discussion.
can I, hello, this is the chair. So the bill is gonna be proposed, and perhaps we should watch the testimony and see who's there speaking for or against casino. So we might be able to find names through that group and then plan the meeting to follow.
So you're suggesting that we don't do this until after the public hearing by Hawaiian Affairs on February 11th and before Judiciary and Ways and Means meets. So we will not have any kind of testimony, which is okay.
I think that's a fair way to look at the whole picture right now, because, you know, it's clear we're getting a lot of comments from DHHL and those who support this opportunity. But I think it's good for us to see how it weighs out when we actually look at what comes back off the bill. So
Does
yes.
that require a motion? I'm sorry, Chair, does that require a motion?
We can make a motion to this. I mean, this is one of the things, again, that we just mentioned, where we're going to go down the list and look at the ones that we want to put on monitor versus support or oppose. And this actually has to do with us not even doing a motion. I mean, it's not about doing the testimony so much as it's more about doing the discussion, having that ability for us to do outreach and for informational purposes. That's where I think we're going right now.
So if it needs a motion.
Is that correct, Momi? Momi? So we are saying that what we're discussing right now is to hold an informational discussion on the issue, to go ahead and see. We started off with trying to go ahead and invite others that wanted to give information on the con side.
So Juanita, I think it's okay. I think what I'm hearing is your suggestion that, especially for the hearing on February 11th, that we just monitor, see what comes out of that. But before the next session, we hold another forum as our membership agreed upon of having a couple speakers. You know, the only, I think that'll be okay, because there's no way we can do a forum before tomorrow. I mean, well, no, we could do a forum if we wanted to before February.
So I have a recommendation, Chair, that the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus not take a position on this legislation until it holds its own forum on the topic. And has yeah, that would be my motion. So until we have a forum, the HAC does not take a position, and we just monitor.
Right, but right, Benton, but the question is when we hold the forum. So you would have to be after February 11th.
So my thing is that we're not going to take a position until we have the forum. It doesn't matter when, you know, if we don't do a forum, then we don't take a position. So my thing is, I think we need to have a forum first, and then we take a position.
Right.
Okay, and so, but we want to try and see if it's possible to have the forum prior to the February 11th hearing, is what I was hearing from Leimomi. Yes. So that doesn't give us a lot of time, but you know, if these the two individuals that we were talking about, being Robin Danner and Stacy Eli, can come and share their opinion, because we did hear from DHHL, and then Makana can speak on behalf of where he comes from, which is what Pohai pointed out, himself and the unions and their opinions possibly on where this is going. I'm not sure. Has Makana declared that the unions are supportive of this? Do we know?
I have not heard anything from the Labor Caucus because there's not even been a Labor Caucus meeting that I am aware of. So I have no idea.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
so how about if we do this like Benton has suggested and you suggested, Juanita, we just simply monitor this and we will provide for a forum after February 11th. So I have names of recommended speakers being Robin and Stacy and Makana. But certainly after February 11th, after we watch the hearing, that could change. So gives us some time.
okay.
All I was asking this evening was how do we carry out what we agreed to do with the general membership? And it wasn't to take a position, it was to hold another forum.
Okay, so again, thank you, Momi. So Benton, you want to continue with that? You did make a motion though.
And it was seconded.
And it was seconded. And so can you state the motion once more regarding which bill?
SB 1321.
The Hawaiian Affairs Caucus shall not take a position on SB 1321 until it holds its own educational forum on the subject.
Okay, and the second was?
Ken.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
discussion.
Further discussion.
The caucus has already held an educational forum. So if you could just word that a little bit differently. Benton, I know what your idea is. It's just that we did hold an educational forum already. So this is
we're hold this vote is being taken tonight, and so is it the timestamp from now moving forward? You're looking backwards from tonight. So the motion is being made tonight. I can clarify it. So
no, we have had the problem with the motion is you're saying until an educational forum is held. We held the educational part of the forum.
That wasn't called an educational forum, though. It was a DHHL presentation on their legislative package.
And
general membership meeting.
In our transmission and in the script, I emphasize that while that was a presentation, it was an educational presentation. It was to learn about the proposal. It was not where we were taking a position pro or con. It was to learn about the proposal.
Okay, so that's my clarification then, that an educational forum with pros and cons.
Yeah, that's good. That'll work.
So I'll amend my motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so you withdraw the original motion and
Nope, just amending it. That
Okay.
educational forum with pros and cons. That's the difference.
Okay, very good. And it was seconded by Ken. Any other discussion? If no further discussion, any opposed? Any opposed to the motion? Okay, very good. Motion passes. So we will go ahead and work on that, Benton and Momi and executive committee. Okay, Momi, go ahead. Continue.
Okay, sorry, my mouth is full. Okay, so for housing measures, there are several, but we have no recommendation yet for HAC. Ken is following several, but we don't have any recommendations right now.
Can I bring out one that we should definitely not support or not give testimony on if we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings?
Well, we just don't highlight it. We're not going to take a position anyway, so.
Yeah, we're not
HB
taking a position. on how-
HB 519.
So related to affordable housing, authorizes cash payments made by developers in lieu of providing their required reserved housing units in the development of residential projects for the Hawaii Community Development Authority to be deposited into the rental housing revolving fund. So you don't like this bill, but we're not taking a
We went
position
through
anyways.
this with the county. We went through this with the county. It didn't work. In fact, we had a reso at the Civic Club against in lieu fees.
Okay,
Because I even read the bill. I mean, there's not even going to say what the actual in lieu fee is going to be. Like if it had like what the number would be and it was something sizable, then great. But we went through this with the county.
okay. Introduced by Holt, and it's got a companion SB 865.
That's a dangerous bill. I agree. And Ken, are you gonna hurt people's feelings if you're doing politics?
We already went against this. I mean, like the thing is, if it had a number that was like sizable as to the in lieu fee, because we know like what's gonna go in that area, then I would probably be more okay with it. But when there's absolutely no number to what it would be,
I agree.
like it could be 50 cents, right? Because how much was the one that the county asked for? Was it like they got it for $10 or something like that on an in lieu fee, or something really ridiculous? But we were against this the convention after last.
Yes,
And
we
then the
were.
counties got rid of in lieu fees.
Right. Okay, so that being said, thank you, Ken. Are you making a motion for us to oppose this bill, or are you just making us aware that that bill is out there? And
I'm
that you
making you
don't
aware.
agree with
I'm personally gonna look at this and just the footing I'm going to use for my personal is the counties tried this in Honolulu and it didn't work. They got rid of it.
Okay, thank you. All right, and Momi did say that you're part of our housing committee there. And so also, these are just things we're going to monitor at this point in time.
I will monitor it because as soon as it comes up for committee, I mean, I'll work on something short, but it hasn't been given to committee. But unfortunately, if this is the way that we're thinking, that's bad. Sorry.
So I just need to clarify. On any bill that we give testimony on, there has to be a nexus to our platform. Yeah, we're the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. We're not the broad Democratic Party of Hawaii caucus. We are the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. So there needs to be a nexus to our mission and to our platform. That's all I'm saying, because there's a lot of bills out there.
I agree, Auntie. I will look on the platform portion. I thought that, I mean, I was thinking more on the Civic Club side as it were, but if we don't have language from the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus, then I guess something I would consider putting in for our you know, as part of our mission, our larger
Affordable
mission.
housing. We don't have affordable housing in our platform as a caucus?
No.
Okay, something to work on.
May I add something, Auntie, if it's okay? I don't want to take away anything, but it is a way of looking at affordable housing. However, it doesn't work as even like how the counties were. So that's why we were against it from the Civic Club side. I will put in or introduce language if we need to the Hawaiian Affairs to talk about how we should be against in lieu fees that basically has no arbitrary amount to what it would be.
Yeah, so this
It's
is
something
what
I will think about it.
This is what I'm going to recommend, because I wasn't aware of this before this meeting. So what I'm going to recommend is that you monitor the bill, draft, if you want to make a proposal, draft up the proposal, and then we'll send it out for review by the executive committee.
Okay.
Yeah, then that way we all have the opportunity to see what why we're opposing something, why we're opposing this bill.
Yes, Auntie.
Bills, okay? I'm not against it. I'm just saying I'm just going through a process.
Okay.
Okay, let me go almost pal. I'm going through the cultural and sacred sites, some of the bills that we've looked at. So one, this is not a new bill. It is SB 211. It relates to Hawaiian as an official language of the state of Hawaii. It requires that the Hawaiian version of a law be held binding if the law in question was originally drafted in Hawaiian and then translated into English. So again, this is not a new bill. Those who follow this at the legislature know that this is just regurgitating again. And on February 2nd, the Committee on Hawaiian recommended the measure be passed. The question is whether we want to give testimony on it. If so, I would ask Jacob to draft the testimony before the next hearing, which goes to judiciary, or we can just remain silent and let it move along. So while you're thinking about that,
And for disclosure, I provided support testimony.
Yeah. It's just whether we want to take the time to give testimony on it, you know, because we are so busy with all this.
I think, you know, this keeps coming up, this bill. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of money that needs to be attached to this bill, and that's usually where it gets killed. Because in order to implement this, you need skilled, qualified people to do translating. So it's not just because the law is already there about Hawaiian language being the equal language, official language of the state to English. And Senator English has tried and tried and tried, and I think he does it. Who introduced this bill, by the way?
Yeah, so,
Rhodes.
okay, and this is not the same, Pohai, this is not the same as what you're thinking, I think. Because this one is not the one where in all of the correspondence and whatever they put out in communications, they have to do it also in Hawaiian. They have to change their stationery to Hawaiian. This is not that bill. What this bill is like if they have a law case and then you have an old law that was written in Hawaiian and somebody translated to English, this bill says if you will follow the original, you will follow what the original said in Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, you don't need translators. I'm just saying that it's going to take cost, and that's usually where it gets killed.
Yeah.
No, so I encourage you to read the AG testimony to not support, and has to do with ambiguities of kingdom law versus laws today.
Okay, that
So
was
it's a legal
the position,
question.
but the legislators' position is usually it takes money, they ain't gonna do it. That's usually the pushback. Can I ask, why is Rhodes what is his role?
He's
is he the Hawaiian
judiciary
Affairs
chair.
chair?
He's the judiciary chair
Okay,
or the Senate.
'Cause-
And that's where it's heading next, to judiciary.
because he introduced the OHA election bill. They discussed it today in BAE committee at the Board of Trustees.
Right.
I was just curious, why is Rhodes doing that? He doesn't even represent Hawaiians really in his district, does he?
So I don't know. Okay, but the question I have before you is, do you folks want us to give testimony on this or not? I'm good with just monitoring it. Just work for us if you want, or if you think.
I recommend monitor.
Okay.
I was reading the AG's testimony and it's pretty clear why.
Okay, so let me move along. So I'm gonna tell you about a couple other bills, and I'm suggesting we just monitor it, although it's quite important. One is HB 544. This one is making an appropriation for a capital improvement project at Mauna Kea. So it authorizes the issuance of general obligation bonds and appropriates funds for a capital improvement project for the Department of Land and Natural Resources to be expended by the University of Hawaii to remove the Hoku Kea telescopes from the summit of Mauna Kea. And so that bill is being heard tomorrow, and we're not giving any testimony at the moment. We're just monitoring.
Can I make a recommendation? We write supporting testimony if it passes out of committee. And one, I think this is in line with our previous position on Mauna Kea, and two, it's one of the bills that's supported by the Hawaiian caucus of the state ledge.
Okay, so you're making a motion that the HAC support.
Yeah, yeah.
But
After we'll hear what happens after the committee hearing,
but we don't need,
and then
but we don't need to do testimony tomorrow. Okay.
right. No. We gotta wait for after committee. If it makes out committee, then we can draft committee, and I can help you with that.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second, this is Melody.
So Juanita,
Okay, any discussion? Any further discussion? No discussion, any opposed to the motion? Any opposed? None opposed? Go ahead, Momi.
okay. So Benton, did I just hear you offer to help to draft the testimony on this one?
If it passes out of committee, I'm willing to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, there's another bill. It's not anything new, but I don't recommend we give testimony on it. And it relates to Prince Kuhio and having his photo portrait displayed on certain public buildings on Hawaiian homelands. This is not a new bill.
I remember that from last year, I think.
Yeah. And then there's another one. This one's important. And this one doesn't have a hearing yet, but I'm concerned about it. And that's SB 16 that calls for a state holiday, June 10th. You folks have heard about that one. You know,
Correct pronunciation is Juneteenth.
Juneteenth, right? You're right. So you know that we've been trying to get a state holiday. I think it was for Laho'ihoi, and we haven't been successful yet. And in my opinion, before we ask for a state holiday to help other, like the Blacks, that we should take care of our own first. So Jacob was the one that had introduced the initial reso on the Hawaiian holiday. And he expressed concern of this at the Democratic Party of Hawaii meeting when the Democratic Party State Central Committee voted to support this. I did not vote to support it because I just felt like before we go give a holiday to somebody else, we should take care of our own. So no hearing yet. The question is, what would you folks like us to do on this one?
I agree. If you and Jacob can write testimony to oppose this particular bill with that reasoning.
I don't think it's going to pass anyway. They're too small a minority.
I think so too.
And,
yeah.
Yeah, and there's so much cost involved in having a state holiday.
Yeah, but Pohai, there's a bill in the legislature to do away with the holidays related to voting. You know, there's a couple holidays for voting. So there's a bill because we do mail voting now. So there's a bill at the legislature to do away with the election holidays.
To have this holiday replace it?
No, there's no bill to have this holiday replace it. This is a bill to create a state holiday. And when they do
that's what I meant.
Yeah, so when they do this, it's like the bill that we had for our holiday. You know, we tried to attach it to another holiday already, or to try to substitute it, and it didn't fly. This Juneteenth is very popular because several states have already established this date as a holiday. And so the state of Hawaii just seems to be following that trend.
Except those states have probably much larger African-American populations, where it makes sense. I understand what the holiday is, but I agree. I mean, we shouldn't be doing that, even though people might say we already have lots of Hawaiian holidays.
So do you second
Which-
my motion, Pohai?
Huh?
You second my motion
Yeah.
to not support? Thanks.
Yeah, I do.
So we have a motion and a second, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Okay, anyone opposed to the bill, to the motion, sorry. Any opposed to this motion? No opposition, motion passes.
I have another bill. It's SB 1410. This one is Hawaii Right to Farm Act. Clarifies that customary and traditional subsistence farming, which is customary and traditional subsistence farming conducted by a Native Hawaiian cultural practitioner in certain situations, is included as a protective activity under the Hawaii Right to Farm Act. Clarifies that the cultivation of crops and activities related to game, fish, and livestock on agriculture lands may be for economic use or customary and traditional subsistence for farming. So provides that one of the state's policies under the Hawaii State Planning Act's agricultural objectives is to assure the right of Native Hawaiian cultural practitioners to engage in customary and traditional subsistence farming for direct personal or family consumption. So I don't have a recommendation this evening. I just sent this to Benton today for his recommendation because he serves on our legislative committee to give us recommendations on this subject area.
Homie, what was the?
The hearing is scheduled though for February 9th.
SB 1410.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you're prepared, Benton, to make a recommendation or not tonight.
I can recommend that we support this bill. My comment to you, Auntie Momi, was anything that is going to support customary and traditional practices, which is protected under our Constitution, is something the HAC should support. So that's why I think we should support this.
Mhm. I agree, and I would second.
Juanita?
Okay, any further discussion? No further discussion. Any opposed to the motion? No opposition, motion passes. Go ahead, Momi.
Okay. So another one that's kind of related, this one was SB 690. We did give testimony in opposition. It concerned community-based subsistence fishing, where it would require that the designation of community-based subsistence fishing areas be approved by at least 50% of the community. And interestingly today, when the hearing was held, the Committee on Water and Land deferred the measure. So we don't have to do anything on this one, but I just wanted you to know what the status was. Okay, almost par, we only have about 3 more. So these should be easy. One is a resolution, it's SCR 8. This one requests the Hawaii State Commission on the Status of Women to convene a task force to study missing and murdered Native Hawaiian women and girls. So I forwarded that to all of you earlier today with some of my personal comments. And I recommend that we support this. And Juanita has agreed to draft the testimony if you agree. So I'm going to move that we support SCR 8.
I'll second. Oh, Melody second. For discussion, can I recommend that we reach out to the Women's Caucus to see if there's drafting testimony, and maybe we can team up, partner together?
Yes, so I did send it off to the co-chairs of the Women's Caucus for their consideration. Melody sits on that caucus too.
Yes, I do.
As long as our point of view, Chair, as long as our point of view is from the culturally Wahine perspective and focus, yeah. When you start blending the caucus's comments, the lines get very blurry. That can be said with environmental as well. So if we're going to introduce something that's partnering, as long as it's clearly stated, our advocacy is stated, focused on Hawaiian women. Even though the Women's Caucus is broader, our kuleana is, like you said earlier, Lemomi, Native Hawaiian.
Yes, yeah. So what happens though with the Women's Caucus is they will sometimes add to by providing their own testimony in support.
Ohio has a good point. But I think in this case, because the legislation is specific to Native Hawaiian women and girls, the testimony will probably be geared toward that. But I hear you, Pohai. I think environmental, it can get blurry. We want to make sure we stand on our own, and maybe some of the other legislation that we would work with the Women's Caucus or Labor Caucus on. We want to make sure that the Hawaiian voice in our caucus stands on its own. Yeah, good point.
We also did prepare testimony that was specific in referencing the things that are clearly impacted upon with the Native Hawaiian community as women and girls. I reviewed some of the different reports and the different organizations that were involved in requesting support in this area. So there was a report done in Arizona that clearly stated specific percentages that were significant with regards to Native Hawaiian women and girls that were impacted by this. And what they're asking for is a task force to be resolved, so that what they're really hoping to do is have more care and treatment centers set up to help people who are challenged, the women who are being challenged, Native Hawaiian women who are challenged with this issue. So we did prepare something.
The only thing that I sent you folks in terms of amendments to this one was that the study should not just have numbers about the women who are impacted, but also the racial background of the abusers and whether they were family members or not. Because just from my own personal experience, I've seen Native Hawaiian men and family members abuse children in their own families. So I think it'd be good to know, who the abusers are. And if it turns out that we've got a lot of Native Hawaiian men abusing, girls also, we really have a problem then in the Hawaiian community that we need to address.
And Auntie Momi, when you made that, oh, go ahead, Pohai.
That's one of the dark secrets of Molokai, to be honest with you, is the high incidence of incest in the Hawaiian community.
Yeah.
It's not a known fact, because obviously they don't want to diminish the esteem of the community, but that is one of the long-lasting problems, actually. It's generational. And I was really impressed that Trustee Alapo was fully aware of it. And the reason she was aware of it, because her sister was a probation officer on Molokai. Because, you know, before the general election, I sat down with her. I said, okay, I want to share some things with you, the dark side about Molokai and the statistics in our Hawaiian community. And that was one of the things I shared with her. And I was really impressed that she already knew. Because a lot of people aren't aware of that. And it's a sad thing, but it's the reality. I'm not so sure about the trafficking, but the incest, for sure.
And Auntie Momi, when you had mentioned your personal story, it got me thinking, what about transgender women? Would we want to offer any comment regarding transgender women? Because I think there's also abuse with transgender women by their domestic partner.
That was included in the bill.
Okay. So sorry,
Are you ready to take the vote?
Yes.
Auntie
Any
Melody?
further discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I was actually surprised when this bill was brought to our attention, because as Auntie had mentioned, we didn't really look at kidnapping and murdering Native Hawaiians as an issue. This is actually a very big issue on the mainland, particularly the Indian reservations. That's where I've heard it more in Lakota and Keystone and those areas. So I was surprised that it brought a lot of attention here. I know as a member of the Women's Caucus, I've tried numerous times to have a forum regarding sex trafficking, because it's an area that I believe that's not being brought to the forefront, in which Hawaii, however, is very big, I guess, sex traffickers out there, a lot of pimps out there, and a lot of them have gone underground in a sense that they're using more computer in order to get their victims versus just being out on the street. So a lot harder than to detect them and capture and arrest. But I feel that we probably should bring this to the forefront and have a forum. Women's Caucus, I've argued with them because they seem to think, and I hate to say this, but it's such a divide. The way I look at it, if you're sex trafficked, you're doing this against, of course. And the Women's Caucus, to some extent, are looking at it as a profession, and they should be able to have, their freedom in doing that. So I guess what I'm saying is that I'm glad that this bill's come in.
What? Wait, what did you just say? They feel free to what?
It's a profession.
I'm shocked. Okay.
Sex workers, women as sex workers.
No, sex trafficking is not the same as sex workers. That's different. Sex trafficking is a form of slavery.
However,
I sat in a presentation with the Optimist Society. I will warn you, if you do have one of these, it's so deeply disturbing. You will leave changed. Because if the actual victims who have lived through the trafficking, which was the case with the Optimist Society, there were 4 local girls. One of them married an executive at Kamehameha Schools, but that's a whole other story. But Kupuna Claire Hughes came with me, and she just couldn't comprehend it. It was so disturbing. She said she had a hard time sleeping that night. And I said, I know, to know that this is actually going on. Sex workers is different from sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is totally against your will. And sex workers, that's different. That's somebody that, well, they may have a pimp, but the way that the sex trafficking is done, and there's apparently a growing problem on the Big Island, in the Puna area, with adolescent girls. It's a huge problem, and they're trying to address it over there. A child goes missing like every 2 weeks. They have APVs out on children. But the other thing is, for you, Melody, I saw a documentary actually on cable a couple of years ago. The Great Lakes area, the Native American men were trafficking the Native American girls from their tribes on the ships. And it was a huge problem because maritime law is different, yeah? And it was real complicated catching the perpetrators, but the saddest part was it was their own men in their tribe doing it to the women, taking them out and selling them against their will. So there's different levels, but I find it hard to believe that the Women's Caucus, there's two different ways of looking at this. I can see where they're saying that if you're a prostitute and have to choose it to make a living versus someone who's forced into the situation and traded. The stories that they shared with the Seroptimus Society, one girl went to Puno, one girl went to Midpac, the other girl went to Kalani High School. And it's a slow, it depends on what the perpetrator is like. Sometimes it's forced and sometimes it's a slow progression into servitude, where you start out working somewhere and then one girl, the Korean company owner just said, oh, do you want to help us with this? And it was a slow progression. And then she said, oh, we have a job on the East Coast. Do you want to come with us? And she ended up there working in the bars, not by choice. She thought it was totally something else. So I think it is something that we can bring to the forefront, or the Women's Caucus especially should be leading this. But just know that it's deeply disturbing when you sit through the testimonies. You're going to be very shocked.
I'm totally in accord. And in fact, I tried to do this forum with the Education Caucus, excuse me, with Chris Cofield, since he's the executive director of Imua Alliance. But once I brought in Chris Cofield, then Women's Caucus went kind of, I don't know, a different way. I couldn't believe, and they're telling me that even the Women's Caucus in the legislature is divided in this issue, which I find hard to believe. But I couldn't get edgewise in trying to get this forum. And I think I've been working with the caucus at least 6 months and still unable to get Amy Monk and Nicole Wu to say, yes, it's a go. So I'm just...
Kalamai, I'm so sorry, but we need to move on.
Thanks.
28, and I still got a couple more.
Okay, so on that regard, we are submitting testimony on that.
We haven't
Is that
voted.
correct? Okay, so are we making a motion to submit testimony?
We had a motion to support.
Okay, so we have a motion to support the bill. Is there a second?
Yeah,
Second.
Melody seconded.
Okay, and then any further discussion? No further discussion, any opposition to the motion? Okay, very good. So motion passes, we will support this bill.
Okay, so next bill is HB 536, and there is an SB 173. And this is the Malia Nobriga bill, which requires the Department of Health to issue a certificate of stillbirth upon request of the parent or parents named on a fetal death certificate issued in the case of a stillbirth. My understanding is that the Women's Caucus may have an issue with this bill. So what I've done is I've connected them with Malia Nobriga so that both sides can hear what the concerns are and see if they can, reconcile. But in any case, they don't disagree with the issuance of a certificate of stillbirth. It's just some concerns about assuring the right of women. For example, if they want to have an abortion, they just want to be sure that this bill doesn't take away any of those rights. I'm recommending that we support the bill, and we have, I believe, in the past, but I'm not certain. So
I'll second.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Stay out of my link.
So can you just re-emphasize, I know this came from Civic Clubs and Malia Nobriga, but what is the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus? why are we involved in this issue? And Chair Lemomi Khan.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I think it has to do with family values and Hawaiian values. As Malia Nobriga, if you had a chance to read her testimony, she brings out.
I believe we've supported it in the past also, Momi.
Yeah, but I think Benton's question is a good one. Good question, Benton.
So I think there's something is there, if the and Pukui wrote a monograph on Hawaiian methods of childbirth and rearing,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe Malia referenced some of that parts of that book. But yeah, I'm just trying to find the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. Why are we taking a position on this as a caucus?
On our platform, it does make mention that we support the growth of Native Hawaiian farming, agriculture, and healing practices, and we value and wish to foster the preservation of our host culture. So I think with regards to health, this is something that is recognized and is part of our culture. So I think it is part of where we go. I don't think it's a far reach. And that's why we've gone there in the past.
And I will be honest with you, Benton, though your question is a good one. And primarily it was because it was brought up by Malia and adopted by the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs that likewise, have a nexus to Native Hawaiian welfare and well-being. And so I think that's how this falls into that. And that's the primary reason. I can't find Malia's testimony, but I did send it to you folks. It was just so heart-moving. But if we want to move along, Juanita, can we take a vote on that so we can move?
Yes, any further discussion? No further discussion? Okay, any opposed? No opposition, motion passed. Go ahead, Momi.
Yeah, I think this is, let's see, I think we took care of that one already. Let's see. Oh, okay, this one, which we should support because I think we did a reso or something on this. Anyway, it's Hawaii Public Housing Authority, Public Housing Broadband Access. So requires the Hawaii Public Housing Authority to conduct a study on the state of broadband access in all public housing projects in the state, and that they are to submit a report of its findings and recommendations to the legislature prior to the convening of the regular session of 2022. And one similar to that, which I would also recommend we support, requires the Hawaii Public Housing Authority to establish a pilot program to ensure that all housing units in the Kuhio Park Terrace and Pu'uwai Momi public housing complexes are provided with sufficient internet speeds and connection quality.
Okay.
And so I'm going to move that we support both HB 616 and HB 1387.
I'll second
Both of
that.
these bills, by the way, are being heard tomorrow. We won't be able to give testimony for tomorrow. So the next time around would be if it passes out and goes to the next committee.
I'll make a motion to support.
Okay, any further discussion? No further discussion. Any opposed to the motion? No opposition, motion passes.
Okay, here's another one. This is the very last one. I'm not sure that we need to provide testimony on this, following Benton's question to me about nexus to the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. But this one is SB 1250. And it proposes to create the Hawaii Emergency Food Assistance Program Special Fund to be administered by the Department of Agriculture and appropriate monies into the fund to feed Hawaii's needy population when a state of emergency has been declared. So the only nexus I see is, you know, among Hawaii's needy population are Native Hawaiians.
I can see that nexus. Do you want to make a motion to support?
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? No further discussion? Any opposition? No opposed, motion passes. Thank you,
Okay.
Momi.
So this is what I'd like to do in closing. As you can tell, there's significant work involved in tracking the legislation. I am sure that we've missed some bills, but we do the best that we can, and I hope everybody remembers that. You know, my committee, they're also tracking bills. We haven't had a meeting, but we will. And then this is being turned over to the new chair, who I understand is going to be Mona Bernardino, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is go over with Mona how I do this, how I track bills. And then I started something new this time, and that was over the last couple of days, is I've reached out to specific members to ask for them to write the testimony. So it's not the chair writing all the testimony. It's not the caucus chair writing all the testimony. It's not the legislative committee chair writing. That we have other people who are very smart, who know how to write testimony, that they're also writing testimony. Okay, so I'm going to slowly be backing out of this, but I just do it because I hate for some of this to get away from us and then our voice not be at the table.
So Momi, can we go over the list of who you assigned the various?
No, I'm happy to send it out to you by email because it's now 8:39 and we still have more on the agenda, Juanita, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the legislative committee report.
Thank you very much, Auntie.
Anything
Momi.
further on legislative?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo, mahalo. Thank you. Okay, so Benton on finance.
I don't have a
Um,
report.
Okay, so we'll report it this time.
I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Momi.
Yeah, Benton, can you put up the agenda, please?
It's up.
Okay. Okay. I would like to recommend, given the time, that we defer all of the rest of the meeting topics except for the election of the Maui and Oahu representatives, that everything else be deferred.
8A. What about do we have to, I thought there was a motion to, 9B. Under new
Yeah.
business to appoint a chair to legislative committee. So those two actions, I think, election and then appoint a chair.
Okay, I'm good with that. So I so move.
Cal second, amending the agenda.
Any further discussion? Any discussion? No discussion, any opposition? No opposition, motion passes. Okay, so that being said, we're gonna move on to the election then. So tonight we have two candidates here that have offered to be representatives for our caucus of respective islands. So Let's start with Maui. Stacy, are you there?
I'm trying.
Oh, aloha. I just saw her. Is she still there?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, mahalo, Stacy. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay. Aloha and mahalo for affording me this opportunity. I am Kiki Oka'ina o Molokai, born and raised, and um, a mother of 4 sons, a grandmother of 6 mo'opunas, and I have served in different capacities. I would say as an advocate for our island. I've served on the Maui County Council, and presently I serve as the Molokai liaison for our mayor, Mike Victorino, as far as, and besides that, on a county level, his liaison for housing and as well as legislation. Um, so this is new to me. I thank you for extending an invite. Uh, I look forward to working for our, I guess for me, it's for our young people, and to hold on to our traditions that we grew up with. No matter what island, I think our values of our culture is a common thread that we have to continue um, to strengthen. Um, some of us know how to ku'e, and some of us know how to just work behind the scenes. And I would think I'm one that's just in the back of working behind the scenes. So I think that's about it. I don't know how to talk too much about myself. Thank you.
I think you did a lovely job, Stacy. So I've met Stacy, and we talked story a little bit about when she was also running for office and became a member of the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. And so got to have conversations with her and appreciate and offer this opportunity for us to ask someone that is active out there in Maui County who has experience in the community dealing with things that have to deal with exactly what we're talking about right now. So anyone have any questions for Stacy or thoughts?
I have a question for the chair.
Go ahead, Limomi.
Okay, so the question that I have for you is, does Stacy meet all of the qualification requirements as outlined in our bylaws? And that would be the same question I would have for the other nominees. So all of them being proposed tonight, do all of them meet the qualification requirements set forth in our bylaws?
Yes, they do. And I verified those qualifications personally.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have one question, and I would ask this of all the candidates, and that is, where do they stand on Mauna Kea? Only because our caucus has taken a strong position on Mauna Kea.
So may I answer that? This is Stacy.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Before the COVID, my family and I were, Antipua case had invited our ohana to come up to Mauna Kea and express how we see Mauna Kea in comparison to Kaho'olawe. So I guess at this stage, being the kupuna of the helm ohana, I took myself and our next generation up there. And this is what I presented. My brother George Helm in the Kaho'olawe movement talked about Kaho'olawe being a catalyst for all of us to become aware of what we need to perpetuate, what we need to resurrect, and what we need to stand tall and I guess kukanaka as to who we are and where we come from, and more especially when we look at our natural resources. So one of the when I look back, and I guess my message there at Mauna Kea on my brother's behalf, because that was they asked us for, and for one who fought for the stopping of the bombing and the return of the lands, but more in my personal conversations with brother was this is our catalyst. So Mauna Kea becomes a catalyst for all of us to come together and to recognize, and I carried this message from him. Kaho'olawe, the bombing was the desecration and the destruction. But more important, we have to pay attention on the mismanagement of our lands and our resources, meaning the water and the aina. So when we look at Mauna Kea, and this is my personal opinion that I carry that same message, it's mismanagement. It is total neglect in consideration of us as a people. So that's my personal stand. Ikalamai it emotional.
Mahalo.
Mahalo, mahalo. Any other comments or questions for Stacy?
Chair, if it's appropriate to make a motion, I'd like to make a motion now.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I wish to move that the executive committee appoint Stacy Crivello to fill the Maui representative position on the executive committee.
Mahalo. Do we have a second?
Second, Benton.
Mahalo, Benton. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'd like to verify, is there anyone opposed to the appointment or election of Stacy as our Maui representative? Okay, no opposition. Welcome, Stacy. It's unanimous. We all vote you
mahalo.
in as our Maui representative. Mahalo nui to
Mahalo.
you too. Pai pai, pai pai. Okay, let's go on to our next position that I'd like to go ahead and bring forth is we're also speaking today with Ka'imo. Ka'imo Milstein is stepping up to assist us as the Oahu female representative of Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. Ka'imo, are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Aloha, everybody. Aloha, kako. Aloha, ahiahi. Okay, born and raised in Honolulu, lineal descendant of Paua Ohana of Kalia, and lineal descendant of Pi'ikoi of Helumoa. We were ocean people, ocean, front ocean, fishing people. So the kani in our ohana were naturally tend to breathe and eat, sleep in the ocean and on the sands of Kalia as well as Helumoa. I was lucky enough to experience life in Helumoa before the hotels grew up. It was a place where our ohana gathered. So I was very blessed to experience that with several generations of cousins, aunties, grand aunts, etc. Such great memories. And then once the houses got destroyed, we all migrated to Kaimaki, and that's where I lived most of my life. Graduated from Sacred Hearts Academy, and I continue to live, breathe Honolulu air. I currently work in Iwilei at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I am a community outreach coordinator. I'm going on for 22 years with that office. I've greatly been, I've so much appreciate being a public servant, serving our beneficiaries out in the community. It has been a true blessing in that, in serving our, the community in that aspect. Learned a lot. I also appreciate being a member of the Kalihi Palama Hawaiian Civic Club. Also being an advocate of all things Hawaii, Namea Hawaii, from education, of which my children have been graduates of the Kaiapuni schools. And it has been a blessing to be truly a public servant and serving our community for Hawaii, for the Lahui, Kanaka Hawaii, and all those who call Hawaii home. And I always believe he ali'i kaina he kaua ke kanaka. Oia wale.
Mahalo, Kaimo. And again, Kaimo has qualified through our bylaws for the various things that she needs to be in compliance with regards to become the Oahu female representative. So can someone please make a motion?
So before the motion, may I comment?
Yes, please do.
Okay. And just for consistency, I asked the previous nominee to comment on whether or what her position was on Mauna Kea. And I believe I know what Kaimo's position is, but maybe it would be good to have her let us know.
Oh my, if I could oli right now, I would oli no kahanohano ana o Mauna Kea. I love Mauna Kea so much. It is a part of us, of who we are. And, you know, from the beginning of time, Mauna Kea is Wawakea. It is such a place of reverence in who we are as Native people. And yes, we live in modern times. I think we have Kuleana to help all those who are interested of that Wahipana, because it is the peak of it is the highest point, and you know that as the highest point, it is the connections to above. It's just inseparable of who we are as a people, and to say otherwise, I would not say that.
Mahalo Kaimo. So Benton, do you want to make the motion and I'll second it, or you want me to?
I make the motion to appoint Kaimo Mulstein as the Oahu representative female position.
Leimomi, I second the motion. But just want to ask the chair a question. Chair, were there any other nominees for the Oahu female?
No, there were not.
Okay.
Not at the time.
Then I
That
second
was-
the motion.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion? Any questions for Kaimo? If no further discussion or question, are any opposed to voting in our candidate for Oahu? None opposed? Welcome, Ka'imo. You are unanimously voted in by the executive committee as our
Yay.
Oahu male rep. Mahalo, Ka'imo. Mahalo. Welcome. Okay, and now moving on to our last position that we're trying to fill at this point in time is the Oahu male representative. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to Melody, who can share with us where we had asked, or actually we had made this opportunity available, and Brad Lum, Kahu Brad Lum, had discussion with us. And so go ahead, Melody.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Are you
Yes, yeah, Kahu Bradlum apologizes, but he is unable to join us tonight. He is, as you may know, still on sabbatical as a result of the occurrences surrounding the Onipa'a. And so he did, however, provide a statement for us to consider. And at this time, I would like to read that statement. And the statement goes like this. Our kupuna always taught us to be the very best in all we do and say. I remember my kupuna always saying to me that when you give from the heart, you will receive from the heart in return. This is all I know well enough to be of service for the betterment of our Hawaiian community. I am willing, ready, and able to serve as your Oahu rep. I am committed to attend all HAC Executive Committee meetings and general membership meetings. I feel that my experience, knowledge, Olelo Hawaii, and being a traditional and cultural practitioner will be an asset to the caucus, and my philosophy and mana'o are in alignment with the platform of the Hawaiian Affairs Caucus. I also want to say, now I'm adding to my nomination of Kahu Brad Lum, that about a year ago, he had contacted me and he wanted to seek a permit for the Ki'ai to stage their protest on the TMT at the state capitol. And upon that, I acted and made several calls and finally got to the department, the sheriff's, I believe it was, in which we were able to obtain a permit. And this was around Christmas time, I believe. And so he was able to gather people for the protest, and I joined. And when the police came, it was he and I who were met by the police, and they just wanted some information. And of course, by then we did get the permits, which was pretty miraculous since he planned this like within 24 hours of when the protest was going to happen. And so I said, Brad, why are we so late? But that's okay. We'll see what we can do. So now nothing happened to us. They just wanted some information, and it was a peaceful protest. But I just want to say that he's very strong against the TMT and favors protection of Mauna Kea. And as many of you have heard him when we had that conversation regarding the Onipa'a, he's a very passionate Hawaiian practitioner, and he was deeply troubled and hurt by the way that the community unfortunately took a mistaken belief as to what he was saying by warning people not to go to the Capitol at that time, that Sunday, because of the risk of having an intervention with the following protests, which were the Trump protesters. So in that light, I just want to again reiterate my nomination for Kahu Kumu Brad Lum. I think he would be a big asset to our caucus. And with that, if I may, I would like to make the motion to have him approved as our Oahu male rep.
I'll second, Benton.
Thank you.
Okay, Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. I understood that there was another candidate. Did that candidate decline?
Auntie,
Yes.
you're correct. If I may, again, it was my nominee, and that would be Representative Patrick Bronco.
Oh, no, it wasn't Patrick. It's another person, Melody.
Oh, okay. I withdraw my comment then.
Yeah. So Chair, could you comment on that? Did that person withdraw his nomination or the person nominating him withdraw?
So who was that, Momi?
Kamuela
Because
Werner?
Oh, that's right. That was Benton. No, I think he was just applying as a member. I don't think he applied. Benton, did he request to become part of the Oahu male representative?
I don't recall, but he's applied to be a member of the Hawaiian First Caucus. We have his application. I think still has to be processed. So I would say even if he wanted to, I don't know if he's in standing.
Right, with different things. So I don't know where that would have come from, Momi. I just know that we did receive an application from him to become a member of the HAC.
Yes. Okay, that's fine that you clarified that. Later, I will tell you where that came from.
Okay.
But that's good. That's good.
Here, may I clarify regarding Representative Bronco?
Go ahead.
Thank you. My understanding is that he would like to serve, but for some reason he was unable to write his statement as required. And I had asked him several times to do so. I don't understand why he was unable to. I would imagine it was only time constraints, but he did voice his willingness to serve.
I believe that was before the election, right? So at that time, I don't think it was a conflict at that point.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? No further discussion. Any in opposition of Kahu Brad Lam as the Oahu, tentative Oahu male representative for the HAC? No opposition? Motion passes. So Melody, we'll go ahead and put something together to welcome Kahu Brad as our Oahu male representative. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Okay, so I think we've pretty much gone through the whole, because we deferred everything else. Is there any other announcements?
No, you had one more appointment of chair of the legislative committee.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I thought we went over that in the beginning, but so right now, Momi, what we've asked is if through a combination of Benton and Mona, we'd like to go ahead and have them assist the chair, myself, and our executive committee helping continue and maintain the legislative committee priorities as co-chairs. And we're not able to get a hold of Mona, though she did earlier try to come on, but she might have been detained. So, but she did share with me that she would be happy to help and be a part of taking on the legislative committee with the help from Benton and myself, and hopefully you also in various points, but that she could take the lead. And that was
Chair?
because we had originally, go ahead, Benton.
What about the treasurer? Didn't we also approach Mona to be treasurer of the HAC?
So what she did was, when I spoke to Momi about what was going on, Momi said, well, if she would become active as the legislative chair, she would go on and maintain the treasurer's position. as she's been doing, because
Okay.
that was a little bit simpler.
So
for us to
let's
do.
just make
So
sure
I
that's
made
in the
that
minutes
motion.
then. So we're appointing Mona as chair and keeping Lemomi Khan as treasurer.
Correct.
Okay. So
Is that correct, Mom, on your part? You're still willing to take on the treasurer role?
Yeah, until we find someone else, yes.
okay.
Okay.
So that'll be my motion then, when we point. And is Mona going to be chair or co-chair? That's another clarification of the motion.
So she said that she would be happy to be co-chair if Benton, you and I would be there to assist in moving us forward, along with support from Lemomi
Okay.
when possible.
Okay. So then that will be my motion, that Mona is co-chair and Momi remains treasurer of the hack.
Yeah.
Benton, I think your motion is that the executive committee affirms the appointment of the chair of Benton Pang and Mona Bernardino as co-chairs of the legislative committee.
Oh, that's new. See, I didn't know that.
That's why it's called co-chair.
That's not my motion then. Someone else can make that motion. I'm not going to make that motion.
Now, are you willing to do that, to be the co-chair with Mona?
I'm willing to
If-
assist. I don't know if I can take on co-chair responsibilities.
Okay, then the motion would be to appoint Mona Bernardino as the chair
Okay,
of the legislative committee.
so that'll be
And
my
you don't-
amended motion.
Yeah,
That
and you don't
Mona.
need to say anything about the treasurer because we're not changing that. Oh, no, I'm
No,
sorry, we are.
I was appointed as treasurer. That's why I want to make sure it's in the minutes, Auntie.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
A second.
Okay, no, but you made the motion, Momi.
Oh, I made them more. Okay, sorry.
Second,
I second that, and I'll help when I can. Like I said, the best way
Thank
to
you,
get hold of me
Ken.
is text me.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, well, we'll let Mona know she's got all this help. So any other discussion? No further discussion? Any opposed to the motion? No opposition, motion passes. Mahalo, everyone. Thank you, Lemomi, for all the work. We're still gonna be calling and talking story, I'm sure, through the entire process as we go forward in 2021.